Continuing with the airplane setup, we are, as I mentioned before, we are going in that process of a brand new airplane, putting in the air, and what the checks you're doing. We have covered all the CG, we cover the rates, we cover the exponentials. So basically, at this point, that airplane started to feel very close to what you like. So I think once you get to that point, I like to start checking how the airplane is tracking. Basically, you're going to see your up lines very closely, your down lines very closely. That we have already kind of looked when we were working on CG, and so it's good to have always doing that as a confirmation. And then what you're going to do next is start flying the airplane knife edge. Okay, so a knife edge is a very important test. And the test for the knife edge is basically you're going to check how your airplane is tracking knife edge. So the airplanes in general, they all have some kind of coupling. And you hear this word, what it means coupling. Well, coupling is like one axle is coupling the other axle. So, for example, you coming in knife edge, you apply rudder, so your axle applying is yaw, and then it's coupling to another axle that it could be roll. So you go knife edge and you hold knife edge flight, and you're going to see the airplane kind of maybe rolling in this direction or maybe rolling in this direction as it flies. Some of them will do very aggressive, and some of them will take long time until you see. More you see, that's what we call more coupling. Less is less coupling. Then the other one, two axis coupling can happen, and it's again coming knife edge is the axle you're working on it, and then it's going to couple to the other axle, which is pitch. So the airplane can go to the canopy or it can go to the belly. Some of them will do very aggressive, and some of them will do less aggressive. So the important part of this is that you have to observe the airplane very well. What is it doing? So first of all, I like to fly the airplane straight into the wind, so that makes any force that the wind could cause, maybe deviate the airplane from the path it's going. So by flying into the wind, you make sure that it's no external forces affecting what you're trying to check. So that's kind of the rule, in general that you use. Then you are going to hold enough rudder to hold knife edge flight. You don't want to lose altitude. You don't want to claim. Just go straight. As far as throttle goes, you can be about, not wide open, but maybe 3/4, decent airspeed, maybe 3/4 of your airspeed to make and check that. And so if you see that coupling, some airplanes, they will do very little, some others will do a lot, some others will be in the middle. And it's an important thing to understand this, why you're looking at this. You imagine you come in and you do a knife edge flight, and your airplane wants to go to the belly at the same time it wants to roll. It's going to be very difficult for the pilot to do a very clean knife edge flight and straight, just smooth and straight. And that's the reason that you will hear this pre-mix. So people start doing pre-mix. What the pre-mix is, your radio, it has the ability to program your mixes. So you are going to mix, if you have roll, you're going to mix a roll coupling, you're going to mix your rudder to the ailerons. So when you apply rudder, it will apply aileron in the opposite direction that it's going, and that's what you will do with the axle. Then on pitch, same way, you're going to mix, programmable mix number 2, for example, is going to be a rudder to elevator. So if your airplane is going to the wheels, you're going to apply rudder, and you will see the elevator moving up to maintain that straight line. Now, there is tuning coming up after that is going to be all about the amount of mix you're going to do, right? So if you apply an amount that needs to be the correct amount for the amount of rudder that you are moving to keep that airplane straight. So why you want that to be straight? Well, it will make, first of all, it will make your flying so much easier, and your flight will look so much smoother. It's so much cleaner, and this is used by every pilot that compete, and you call it pattern flying, IMAC, even freestyle. You are going to tune in this because it's very important. Don't think only when you're flying knife edge. This happens every time you hit the rudder. Even if you are level flight, you hit the rudder, and if you have pitch, it will pitch down and it will roll at the same time. So the airplane will be very hard to control. And so that's why you want these mixes, pre-mixes. The pre-mixes will not only, clean your flight and make it smoother, will make your flight more enjoyable. You will enjoy more the flight. It's a very important point. It's one of the basic points that every aerobatic pilot shoot for. Shoot for means like it has to be a way when you fly your airplane to be consistent. You imagine you going one day, maybe you can master a really straight knife edge, and you work, keep your airplane perfect and this, but not every day you will be doing that, or not every day even the weather condition is the same. So that this will give you consistency to your flight. It's one of the rules, basic rules, as your rates, your expos. It has to be right in order to make a good flight, right? So with the premix, you are going to be testing this airplane first knife edge flight, and then you're going to start increasing the amount of rudder in order to do that loop. You'll be climbing and do the loop, and if you have enough skill to fly the airplane around and make a knife edge loop, this is how you're going to check. You're going to check the amount of rudder you're applying and the amount of mix you will put it in. So you will notice that as you increase the amount of rudder, that coupling in most airplane is pretty linear or close to linear. So more rudder, more coupling, and that's how you will choose that amount. So you will pick for an amount, let's say 10%, and then you're gonna test all the way around how it works. You might, as you test, you might start noticing that maybe when I have stick, it goes a little, but as I increase, it goes more. That's what we call a non-linear mixing. So that's why the transmitters, they have those 7 points, center and 3 more in what direction or the other. So you can adjust each of the points, giving the amount that you need in order to keep the airplane. For example, some airplanes, it could be, as I say, I just pick up a number, 10%, and you do this loop, and it's perfect. It's working very well. As you move the stick, it's linear. You move 25%. That, if you have 10, it's going to be, 2.5%. And then you move half of the stick, it would be exactly 5. So it works really center. Now, some cases, some airplanes, as you increase the amount of rudder, it kind of jump from, half is linear, and then you add more and it goes more. That's when you start looking for those points in the mixing. You can, move the point to the amount of rudder you're moving, and also in each point you can increase or decrease the amount. So your curve can be like this and then up, just like this and up. But also you can change this point up and down, so on each of the points. So until you get it perfect, and you do this on roll, and also you do that on pitch. So this is, a way to get the airplane clean. And keep in mind this, the rudder is a very important command that in aerobatics you use all the time. Every single roll that you do, you apply rudder. So every heading change you want to do, crosswind and things like that, you apply rudder. So even if you do a stall turn, you still applying rudder. So you want to make sure that every time you apply the rudder, the airplane is very, very clean. For example, imagine you're doing a one roll circle, and as you're applying rudder, the airplane start pitching or start rolling and changing. Imagine how difficult it will be to maintain that one roll circle really smooth and way all the around, keeping constant speed on your rate and no pitch changes. That will be a lot harder work, So, and it will be, doing that consistently, being consistent every time you go out there and do that. So it's a very important point, this one, because it is what it will make your flight to look smooth and to be, very clean, and your track is very, very, very good. So, there is other aspects in this mix that is going to be also is a good way to check. You can check knife edge, like I say, but then remember, when you are knife edge, your wings are not lifting. Now, when you are upright and you make a flat turn, just applying, rudder like this, upright or inverted like this, what it will do, if you are turning the wing traveling outside, it generates a little bit more lift. So it tends the airplane to roll. So I think a double checking of the loop and see how it tracks roll-wise as you make your flat turn applying rudder. You can go even full rudder and see if the airplane has any tendency to roll. But in general, airplanes will try to roll as this. If you're turning here, it will roll like this, because the outside wing is traveling a little bit faster speed and make it to roll. So you might have to compromise the amount of mix that you apply to those ailerons when you compare loop to the flat turn. So flat turn and loop is the two checks. So then when you're flying in precision and you hitting the rudder level, the airplane is well balanced, or when you're doing your rolling circles or rolling loops. When I talk about rolling loops and rolling circles, it sounds like this is only important for a high-end type of flying, aerobatic flying. No. I want to tell you this very, very clear. From the beginner to the very end, this is very important. It will just help everybody. okay? So just imagine, you are learning to fly and you just wants to do a knife edge fly, how much of work or demand on you will be by doing all those corrections, and then you want to do a slow rolls or simple half rolls and simple straight lines and hit the rudder. So this is very important. So those are the what people, you hear people talking about coupling, people talking about premix. So these are very important aspect of the aerobatic airplane, and how you had to, basically give you the basic how you had to adjust. But this is a very fun part of setting up an airplane. Myself, I spend a lot of time with this. I love to do this. I love to have the airplane flying exactly like you want, because it pays off. Later on, it really pays off. One thing important, one point that I don't want to forget about it, is some people says, well, you had to choose, disconnect in specific flight modes or in specific dual rates. I would say my opinion is no, never. Is always on, regardless of what rate you are, on what flight mode you are. It's always on, because that's how it works. It doesn't matter for the airplane where your switch is. Is the airspeed at high speed or slower speed, that coupling, it will work very, very, very close, So, and the rates, it will not affect, the way it's going to be, tracking your airplane, or the amount of mixing you're going to need. So leave it on all the time. Don't select this for specific flight modes. That's at least what it works for, best for me. And this will work really, really well on this premix and, any kind of airplane. You can go from a high wing airplane, for example, high wing airplane, the wing is very high, it has that dihedral effect. So you can do that premix of rudder to aileron, so your high wing airplane will fly straight knife edge. And you can do the same thing for the pitch. So this could go up to, any aerobatic airplanes. And as I said at the beginning, some airplanes need more, some airplanes need less. The airplanes that fly the best will have less coupling. That's a general rule. And more coupling you have is more drag. So you lose power a lot. For example, you're doing a one roll loop where you need to go with a lot of power to up, and then you have all this pre-mix, so you need a lot of aileron, opposite aileron to compensate your coupling, a lot of up elevator to compensate your coupling. Then you hear your engine, your RPMs come down because the amount of drag is putting on the airframe. The engine is like losing RPM, and then you're losing airspeed, and then you don't have a climb. It's not clean. So that's why a clean airplane, I call, with less coupling, it will have more performance too. It will have more upline, more punch, more climb. Is because it's just cleaner. Same if you're doing a knife edge, just a knife edge climb. If the airplane is clean, it's going to knife edge better. But the premix is a little bit of a patch, you call it, but every airplane has some, okay? Some more, some less, but the premix is a fantastic way to, counter that coupling effect. And I hope you understood me. I'm sorry to go and, uncover so many things, but I'm pretty excited. You give a shot to this. And remember, going to the wing to be pretty neutral. And so just play with the amounts, play with the amount of mixing, and then do a lot of knife edge and flat turns, and you will get the airplane tuned perfect. And then you're starting to get very close to, being really happy with your airplane. All right. Well, talk to you next time. Thank you, guys. Bye.